volunteers needed to settle a new nation. A priori is a new world. Its settlement will usher in a new era of human civilization and the golden age of man. Apriorians are the new peoples of the new world. Aprioria are the settlement small groups, the units that compose the lowest political and economic and ecclesiastical divisions of this new world. Separaton is a concept community developed out of the aprioria or small group jurisdictions. It is the small groups which certify and legitimize citizenship. Citizens retain and exercise full control of who lives in their community. Citizen councils control the conditions of citizenship. Those who fail to abide by the conditions set by residents lose their rights as a citizen. This, of course, is a very radical idea. Citizenship is earned in aprioria. In a priori, which is a world defined by a civilization and culture, citizenship is a privilege. When one attains to the rights of membership, one also acquires citizenship. Citizenship is a status bestowed upon the new member when the conditions of citizenship have been met. The privilege of living in an aprioria is rescinded if the criteria for membership and citizenship is breached. As an apriorian with the sacred rights of an apriorian citizen, every one of us is given an equal share in the small group we are part of and which we create. Apriorian create their own political jurisdictions or small group. These small groups are the basic political unit of the organization. It is owned as a political jurisdiction and economic unit by its members. Aprioria contain 3 to 15 persons. This is the smallest political unit of a priori. Aprioria are headed by a chairperson picked from the members. The members of the aprioria are citizens of a priori. Each citizen works and is paid for the work they do by the aprioria or small group, of which he or she is a member. Each new citizen is provided with an account in the aprioria of which he or she is a member. The account is used to make purchases and earn income. Purchases debit the account and sales credit the account. Every citizen is a member of an aprioria, and every citizen works for and is paid by the aprioria of which he or she is a member. Every member is always able to work and is paid by the aprioria of which he or she is a member, and every member is paid according to the hours worked. All work is paid at the same agreed-upon rate. Radicalism is the political or social belief that fundamental, society-altering changes are necessary to solve systemic problems. Rather than relying on gradual, step-by-step reforms, radicals believe that structural issues run deep and require revolutionary or root-level changes to government, economics, and social norms. One either agrees with the system or seeks fundamental change. If one subscribes to change, but within the parameters and methodologies provided by the system, one cannot be deemed a radical. Radicals need to be outside of the system, and indeed the very prospect of working within the parameters of the system marks one as an evolutionist or relativist. A true radical must work outside of the system he or she seeks to radicalize. By definition, radicals are separatists. A true radical is a person who advocates for a comprehensive systemic change of the status quo. This is more than what a revolution does, which often is less concerned about the system than those who govern it. Most revolutionaries are content with a change of leadership. But if the system on is in prohibits real change from happening and the system itself is flawed, only radical action will achieve anything meaningful. Globalism is a worldwide system in which parasites have the ability to acquire wealth and power and legitimacy for their claims, even though they often contribute nothing to the wealth of the system. There can be no piecemeal or evolutionary progress. Only radical change will get to the root of the problem. If the problem is selfishness or an idolatry that tells us that everyone has intrinsic value, regardless of personal attributes, then we lose all rights to our personal property. The human identity trumps all secondary elements. The idol bestows intrinsic worth onto people. This could be an office or a classification of some kind, even a racial identity. The identity becomes the value. This has taken on a whole new level of importance with identity politics, where your intrinsic merit is tied up with your identity. If human life has intrinsic merit, it means people have no obligation to earn legitimacy. The criminal becomes as important as the child or the factory worker. Life does have merit in the promise it holds. Human life in the womb is human, and it has merit because it is the promise of a future. But this value and this merit can be extinguished or expended. The value of a human life is not inalienable. There are some things that are just not worth it, even if it does save even one life. If all human life has intrinsic value, then technically no death ought to be permitted, regardless of what the cost of saving it might be. But this is a paradox because such a policy would harm an indeterminate number of other lives. The world is in the state it is in because from the earliest days man thought reality had to be real. He thought that because what he could see and feel seemed real, there must be something with substance that was being seen, felt, heard, smelt, tasted, and viewed. The five senses were considered our doorway into reality, but no matter what we did, reality remained in our minds. Therefore, how can something that does not exist have intrinsic value? Where is physical man? The question is not what consciousness is. Consciousness is information. If you have information, you are conscious. The question is, what kind of information do we have, and what kind of information ought we to have? That determines our consciousness. The information we have determines our consciousness. So the question as to what consciousness asked out to focus on what sort of information do you have access to? From whom are you getting your information? There is only one thing that matters. There is only one thing that has intrinsic value. That is information. The solution to parasites and the idolatry of man is information or consciousness. We need to enhance human awareness. This actually makes us more human. We are what we are conscious of. If evil is parasitism or taking what you have no right to, then the ultimate crime is to take or destroy information. To eat of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is to take information and to some degree destroy it. It is benefiting from the information without contributing to it. The solution is to do what God did. We need to protect and secure our information because this is the same as protecting our identity and our consciousness. The difference is we need to do what God did, but in reverse. As we are not in the garden, we are in the world of the flesh. We need to create a garden of separation where we can protect our information. Morality, honesty, and equality are the trees of this garden. With truth comes faith. When there is faith, we bind together and become a true community.